This is VOA News. Via remote, I'm Diane Roberts. Fighting raged for the strategic Ukrainian city Lysychansk Saturday as Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko said his army had intercepted missiles fired on his territory by Kyiv's forces. Ukraine denied claims by Moscow-backed separatists who said they'd encircled Lysychansk, the last major city in the Luhansk area of the eastern Donbas region, still in Kyiv's hands. Lysychansk is located across the river from neighboring Severodonetsk, which Russian forces seized last week. Rescue workers are continuing to search through the rubble of a destroyed building near the Ukrainian port of Odessa after a Russian airstrike which killed more than a dozen people. The AP's Karen Chames reports.
A dining room chandelier dangles from a ceiling exposed to the daylight in a building whose walls were blasted off by a Russian airstrike just a day earlier. A rescue worker rises on a mechanical platform to reach the upper levels. Shortly after, a man is taken out on a stretcher. Local resident Larisa Andruchenko told the AP the blast came out of nowhere. The blast came, that shockwave, all the doors and everything busted open, and I'm screaming to my husband, "Hey, it looks like our gas tank exploded." Ukraine's Prosecutor General has said investigators are recovering fragments from missiles at the building to determine the specific people guilty of what she calls a terrible war crime. I'm Karen Chamas.
Friday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky hailed a new chapter in its relationship with the European Union after Brussels recently granted Ukraine candidate status in Kyiv's push to join the 27-member bloc. For more on what's happening in Ukraine or any of the stories we're covering today, please visit us at voanews.com. This is VOA News. Tourism is booming again in France, and so is COVID-19. AP correspondent Ben Thomas reports.
New coronavirus cases have been rising in France, nearly 93,000 per day by Johns Hopkins' latest count, and government data shows nearly 1,000 patients hospitalized per day over the past 2 weeks. Still, tourism is booming there this summer. Astatel Hotels president Serge Cachan says it's only taken a few months to return to pre-pandemic levels.
Not only to recover, but to overpass the best result we ever had in Paris, in the tourists, and I think it is the same all over France.
The French government has invited or recommended people go back to using face masks, though they stopped short of renewing restrictions that might scare visitors away or revive protests. I'm Ben Thomas.
The streets of London were filled with colours Saturday as the UK capital marked 50 years of pride. A vibrant crowd of hundreds of thousands turned out to either take part in or watch the festivities, forming a spectacle of rainbow flags, glitter, and sequins. After 2 years of cancellations because of the coronavirus pandemic, the parade came a half-century after London's first Pride March in 1972. This one was headed by members of the Gay Liberation Front from the 1972 protest. Uzbekistan announced a month-long state of emergency Saturday in an autonomous republic where rare protests forced the president to drop plans for constitutional reforms. Uzbekistan's president had arrived in Karakalpakstan Saturday and promised that proposed constitutional amendments that would have weakened the territory's status would be scrapped. The president's press secretary wrote on Telegram that the state of emergency would run from just after midnight Sunday through August 2nd. Uzbekistan plans to hold a referendum in the coming months on the new version of the constitution, which would no longer mention Karakalpakstan's sovereignty or right for secession. Argentina's economy minister, Martin Guzman, resigned Saturday, a blow to a government beset by mounting economic crises. He posted a letter to his Twitter account directed to President Alberto Fernandez. It partially said, quote, "I am writing to you to present my resignation as economy minister, which has been my honor since December 10th, 2019, end quote." Guzman led Argentina's debt restructuring deal with the International Monetary Fund and debt creditors. Recapping our top story, fighting raged for strategic Ukrainian city Lysychansk Saturday via remote. This is VOA News. Via remote, I'm Diane Roberts. Gunfire in a Copenhagen mall Sunday left several dead and several wounded, Danish police said, adding that they'd arrested one person. Copenhagen's police chief described the apprehended suspect as a 22-year-old ethnic Dane. He said it was too early to establish a motive, adding they can't rule out it was an act of terrorism. British singer Harry Styles canceled a concert that was supposed to happen Sunday night at the nearby Royal Arena. Hans Christian Stoltz was bringing his daughters there.
It's pure terror. This is awful, you know. You might wonder how a person can do this to other human beings, but it's beyond, anything that's possible.
The attack comes just over a week after a gunman opened fire near a gay bar in Oslo in neighboring Norway, killing 2 people and wounding 21 others. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Kyiv's forces were still battling Russian soldiers on the outskirts of Lysychansk, but that it is a very difficult and dangerous situation. Zelensky was speaking at a joint press conference with Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, who announced more military aid for Ukraine and expanded sanctions against Russia.
We are announcing today further targeted financial sanctions and travel bans on another 16 additional Russian ministers and oligarchs, bringing the total up to 843 individuals and 62 entities that are being targeted by Australia. And we will prohibit imports of Russian gold to reduce Russia's ability to fund its war.
Albanese announced an additional $100 million of military support, bringing the total spending to almost $390 million. This is VOA News. It's a week off for the January 6th hearings in the United States. AP correspondent Shelley Adler reports.
In a taped interview with ABC correspondent Jonathan Karl, Representative Liz Cheney, who is vice chair of the January 6th committee, says the hearings will continue to show why former President Donald Trump should not run again.
A man as dangerous as Donald Trump can absolutely never be anywhere near the Oval Office ever again.
That interview aired on ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos. Meanwhile, on Fox News Sunday, another Republican, Governor Tate Reeves of Mississippi, says most Americans are not watching the hearings.
They're not worried about this trial that's being had by only one side in Washington, D.C. They're focused on the issues that matter to them in their pocketbooks.
Reeves would not commit to supporting Trump if he ran again for president. I'm Shelley Adler.
Parts of a mountain glacier collapsed in the Italian Alps Sunday amid record temperatures, local authorities said, killing at least 6 people and injuring 8. The Trento provincial government said rescue operations were in progress after a large ice avalanche involving hikers, adding that there was likely to be a heavy toll. The avalanche took place at more than 3,300 meters on the highest mountain of an eastern Italian Alps mountain range. The huge mass of ice collapsed close to the route usually used by hikers and climbers to reach the summit, the Alpine Rescue Unit said. Thousands of residents in the outskirts of Sydney, Australia, were told to evacuate their homes as heavy rains led to increased flooding in the area. AP correspondent Karen Chamas reports.
Floodwater gushed down roads throughout the suburbs of Australia's most populous city. The roof of a lone blue car bobbed up from the water on what used to be a neighbourhood street. A severe weather warning was issued by the Bureau of Meteorology, warning of heavy rain, flooding and high winds. Authorities were calling the situation a life-threatening emergency. The conditions were compared to devastating floods in March last year. Local resident Joan Eisenhuth said she had to get used to the floods.
You don't give up. You just have to keep going.
Emergency services said they conducted over 100 flood rescues and responded to over 3,000 requests for assistance within 24 hours. I'm Karen Chamas.
The British Army regained control of its Twitter and YouTube accounts Sunday after they were briefly hacked and used to post about cryptocurrencies and non-fungible tokens. They apologized for the temporary interruption and said they will conduct a full investigation. Via remote, I'm Diane Roberts, VOA News.